early morning thought that was given to me based on the control of people's welfare through the American system's imagined spending versus debt to create it. Excuse me. This dynamic has crystallized as a national defense budget officially crossed the 1 trillion threshold for the first time in history. I'm getting to the good part. Y'all hold on. The following analysis explores how the system controls welfare by prioritizing military expansion over the survival of its own citizens. I mean, you heard it, but you're hearing it right here. This is real stuff. I'll read that again. The following analysis explores how the system controls welfare by prioritizing military expansion over the survival of its own citizens. One, the 1 trillion ceiling. Imagine national security. The fiscal year 2026 budget marks a watershed moment, driven by the one big beautiful bill, one big bullshit bill. Military spending is now projected at roughly 1.1 trillion, about 3.3% of GDP. Now, keep this in mind too, see, when you tune in and you listen to these politicians talk this stuff a lot of times, it sounds good and it sounds like it's for us. But we're not included in that bill at all. Not at all. Military spending is now projected at roughly 1.1 trillion, about 3.3% of GDP. This imagined necessity, funding for a golden dome, missile shield, nuclear modernization, and Indo-Pacific deterrence is framed as the ultimate guarantor of life. However, critics argue that spending is imagined because it focuses on hypothetical external threats while ignoring immediate internal ones. While the Pentagon makes you wonder why is it shaped the way it's shaped. Pentagon. Receives a 13.4% increase. The Department of Health and Human Services, DHHS, faces a proposed discretionary cut of over $30 billion. The Department of Health and Human Services faces a proposed threat or a proposed discretionary cut over $30 billion, including a 40% reduction in the National Institutes of Health. So this is what Americans are faced with right here. So I mean, when you break it all the way down and you get the right information, you know what's happening. Two, the morality cost of guns versus butter. That's in the statutes right there, or the pages, whatever you want to call them. Guns versus butter. When you look that up, you get the information right there. The trade-off is not just financial, it is measured in human lives. You see? In 2026, researchers have highlighted a direct correlation between budgets priorities and domestic mortality. Preventable deaths. Analysis. Analysts. I gotta start this all over, but anyway, analysts estimate. I can actually perceive what's going on here, but sometimes the reading, I gotta get used to the reading. Analysts estimate that cuts to Medicaid, just listen to me, that cuts to Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act combined with administrative hurdles could lead to over 51,000 preventable deaths per year. Okay? I'll read that again. Preventable deaths. Analysts estimate that cuts to Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act, combined with administrative hurdles, could lead to over 51,000 preventable deaths per year. The rural collapse. Over 700 rural hospitals are now at risk of closure due to Medicaid funding shifts, potentially creating healthcare deserts where mortality rates from treatable conditions like heart attacks or childbirth are significantly higher. Hope I'm being heard out there. People come in, people go out, because this is my first time, no, it's my second time doing a live, nevertheless. I see a couple likes, that's a good thing, that maybe they're hearing me, or they just know of my YouTube name, I don't know. The life expectancy paradox. Despite the U.S. having the highest total healthcare spend globally, nearly $5 trillion, its life expectancy remains lower than most all other wealthy nations. This death gap is attributed to the system's choice to fund corporate controlled sick care and military hardware rather than the butter. In other words, the guns are basically their artillery, their firearms, their tanks, and whatever. The butter is just actually us. This military. The guns and butter. The guns is military. The butter is the people. And that's what that is. This debt gap is attributed to the system's choice to fund corporate-controlled sick care and military hardware rather than the butter of preventing social determinants, housing, nutrition, and clean water. So when you start hearing, socialism, start hearing anything about socialism or anything like that, socialism is a healthy thing. Socialism is what is to be. But Trump doesn't want socialism. He doesn't want that for the people down here. He doesn't want us protesting about what they do. Three, the poverty draft. As controlled. The system effectively controls the population by making welfare accessible only through military participation. This is often termed the shadow welfare state. Service for survival. For many, the only way to escape the debt of poverty, defined by the 2026 HHS guideline as 15,000 $960 for a single person is to enlist. The exchange for the risk of death in combat. The state provides only universal health care. And education, the GI Bill, currently available in the United States. Incentivized risks by keeping civilian life precarious. The system ensures a steady stream of human capital for the military industrial complex. Four, the military industrial control mechanism. By 2026, the military industrial complex has become a primary engine of the U.S. economy, but an inefficient one for public welfare. Job inefficiency. For every 1 million spent on defense, roughly 5 jobs are created. They need to stop lying up there in that Republican administration. And you guys need to start researching for yourself to get some facts in your head. No, you might not remember it all, but if you're talking to somebody, you know whether they're talking true stuff or it's affirmation to what you've actually studied and researched. I mean, I'm not going to be able to speak all this word for word, but I got it logged. AI is evil? No, it depends on what you do with AI. Okay, it'll give you some serious information. Once again, for every 1 million spent on defense, roughly 5 jobs are created. Roughly 5 jobs are created. For what? What type of jobs? McDonald's? I don't know. That same million invested in education would create 13 jobs or 9 jobs in healthcare. Now see, I like to use profanity, but I find a lot of times it's not really necessary unless I use it in English where it's appropriate. But those up there that should be down here, because they're not in heaven. Trump mentioned on a clip that he's pretty sure he's not going to heaven. Now, whether there's a heaven or hell, what I want to say is this. He's not going to do the right thing. That's his implied for the people. Where will he be when the whole thing falls down here in America? Whether nuclear bombs, whatever the case may be, where will he be? Where will Elon Musk be? Where will Peter Thiel be? Where will Palantir be? Where will Kevin Roberts be? Where will these people be hiding? Where will they go? This is what you got to understand. Profits versus people. While military contractors have seen their market gaps double since 2020, domestic social programs are labeled unstable debt. But the money is going over that way. This framing controls the public imagination, making them believe that $1 trillion tank program is a necessity, while the $1 trillion health care program is an impossibility. Maybe I'll do better reading next time, but I just thought I'd come on live and try that out, because I usually do shorts. Because it was a thought, and I figured I'd read it, because people are not reading anymore. You know, they go to social media and they listen to something. I just want to give you the truth. So the money that's going into the military is not going to the common people down here. Just that simple. Trump has put more money in the military to scavenge up countries and land. China's got their own place. So many countries got their own place. But for some reason, here in America, you happen to have these idiots here. They just can't get enough of marauding and taking things. Rudimentarily, they come from Europe, but not all Europe is like that. I mean, because if you look over in England and Ireland, places like that, Ireland is having issues with England. Maybe even Scotland too, because England does not like Ireland for political reasons. But America is to be a different place, but they're fighting for it. They're fighting against what it's supposed to be. They are fighting against what it's supposed to be, and they put these mass maggots on the streets. Mask. What makes that illegal? They're wearing masks. That's allowed? No. I predict something else. If he still sends the military there, there's going to be a hell of a conflict between the arrogant motherfuckers and the military. Peace. I'm out of here.